I'm Suri Scott, 26 years old, sitting at our dinner table in Burlington when my world suddenly flipped upside down. Dad beamed with pride, sliding a set of shiny BMW keys across the table to my brother. "Because you deserve it," he said, his voice dripping with admiration. "The car worth $150,000. I forced a smile, my fork frozen midair. Then Mom turned to me, her eyes cold. "Suri, next month you owe $1,500 in rent." The air grew heavy, suffocating. My heart pounded, but I kept silent. That night, I quietly packed a single bag, a few clothes, my laptop, and a photo of Grandma, then walked out. No arguments, no scene. I drove to my boyfriend's place, hands gripping the wheel, mind in turmoil. They thought I would stay, and it like always. They were wrong. 2 months later, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Missed calls, texts, voicemails flooding in. Now they were the ones begging. But I couldn't help asking myself what had happened that suddenly threw my entire family into panic. I paused for a moment, staring at the screen, torn with conflicting emotions. The calls and pleas kept pouring in. Finally, I took a deep breath and let my fingers glide across the keyboard. I typed just 4 words. "Ask my worthy brother." Before we dive deeper into the story, tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? I'd love to know how far my story has reached. The next morning, I sat on Justin's couch, my boyfriend with a cup of coffee gone cold in front of me. His Burlington apartment was a quiet haven, the faint hum of a kitchen fan, the only sound. I opened my laptop, fingers unsteady, and logged into the old family bank account. As a banker, I'd managed it for years, paying their bills while scraping by myself. They called it my duty, handling utilities, groceries, even Dad's car insurance because I was the responsible one. But last night's sting lingered. Dad's smug grin as he handed my brother those BMW keys. Mom's sharp demand for $1,500 in rent. It cut deeper than I could say. I scrolled through the account history, my eyes tracing every line. Then I froze. A withdrawal dated 6 months ago. $250,000 moved to an account I didn't recognize. My pulse raced. I pulled up the trust fund Grandma set up when I was 10, meant for my college or a house. I'd trusted Dad to keep it safe, never checking it myself. Now the balance stared back almost nothing. My throat tightened. Dad's name was on every withdrawal. $50,000 for Evan's college tuition. $30,000 for his summer in Europe. $150,000 for that gleaming BMW. My brother got everything while I got a bill. My chest burned with a mix of fury and hurt. I'd carried their financial load for years. 3 years back, I paid $2,000 for Mom's dental surgery, emptying my savings. Last winter, I covered their electric bill, $500, when Dad said they were strapped. Every month, I paid for their cable, their phone plans, their groceries, thinking it was my role as the eldest. I'd skipped trips, worked overtime, and shelved my own plans. And now they'd taken what Grandma meant for me. My hands clenched the laptop. This wasn't neglect, it was theft. Justin walked in, his brow creasing as he saw my expression. "Suri, what's going on?" he asked, sitting close. I turned the screen toward him, my voice low. "Dad stole my trust fund. All of it." His eyes widened as he read the transactions, then softened with anger. "That's wrong," he set his hand on mine. "You don't deserve this." His support anchored me, but the betrayal still churned. I thought of Grandma, her weathered hands from years running her construction business, her quiet promise to secure my future. She'd trusted Dad, her own son, to protect me. He'd failed us both. I closed the laptop, my mind spinning. I wasn't letting this go. I remembered my grandma's old financial advisor, a kind man I'd met as a kid. He'd helped her set up the trust, and he might know something. I grabbed my phone, scrolling for his number, my resolve sharpening. This wasn't just about money. It was about what was mine, what Grandma fought to give me. I wasn't the quiet daughter who'd keep bailing them out. I was done. Justin squeezed my hand. "Whatever you need, I'm with you," he said. I nodded, my jaw tight. I saw Mom's dismissive glance, Dad's pride in Evan, and the truth hit hard. They'd never valued me. My finger hovered over the advisor's number. This was my first step to reclaiming what was stolen. I wasn't just fighting for justice. I was fighting for myself. By noon, I was on the phone, my hands trembling. I'd found the number for my grandma's old financial advisor, a name buried in memories of childhood summers at her Burlington office. William's voice answered warm but tinged with surprise. Suri Scott. It's been years. His familiar tone pulled me back to days spent trailing Grandma through her construction company's office, her laughter echoing as she taught me to sort files. I took a deep breath and laid out what I'd uncovered. The trust fund nearly drained, with Dad's name tied to every withdrawal. I needed to know the truth. William listened as I detailed the missing $250,000 siphoned off from my brother's college, his Europe trip, his BMW. That fund was meant for me, wasn't it? I asked, my voice tight with dread. A heavy pause followed. Yes, Suri, he said, his tone somber. Your grandma set it up when you were 10 for your education or a home. My heart sank, the betrayal cutting deeper than I'd imagined. Grandma had poured her life into that money, and Dad had taken it all. He explained how Grandma, after decades building her construction business from scratch, created the trust to give me opportunities she never had. She'd started with nothing hauling lumber and negotiating contracts in a man's world, and she wanted me to have a chance to stand on my own. She'd chosen Dad as trustee, believing her son would honor her wishes. She was clear. William said the money was yours, Suri, no one else's. But Dad had full access, and he drained it. $50,000 for Evan's tuition, $30,000 for his travels, $150,000 for that car. I gripped the phone, my knuckles white. How could he do this? I whispered, my voice breaking. William's tone softened. I didn't know until you called. Your grandma trusted David, but she was wise. She left instructions. If anything seemed wrong, I was to help you. He promised to pull the original documents, trust agreements, grandma's letters, anything to prove her intent. I'll send them to you. He said, You deserve this, Suri. I thanked him, my mind spinning. This wasn't just theft. It was a betrayal of Grandma's legacy, her belief in me. I hung up, staring at my phone. David, my dad, had shattered her trust. I remembered summers with Grandma, just the two of us, in her office. After hours, she'd let me stamp invoices, her eyes bright, as she said, Suri, you're tough like me. Don't let anyone hold you back. She'd tell stories of her early days fighting for respect in boardrooms, saving every penny for our family. She saw something in me my parents never did. A spark of strength. Now her gift was gone, spent on my brother's luxuries. My chest tightened, not just with anger, but with grief for what she'd fought for. I wasn't just seeking answers. I was fighting for her dream, for me. That afternoon, my inbox pinged with a message that broke my heart. It was from William with an attachment labeled Helen's letter. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the file. When I clicked, Grandma's words filled the screen, written in her steady, deliberate hand. Suri, my dearest, it began. This is for you to build a life free from anyone's shadow. She wrote of her dreams for me to study what I love, to own a home, to stand tall without needing anyone's approval. The trust fund, $250,000, was her gift to make that real. My eyes burned with tears. Grandma had seen me, believed in me, when my own parents looked right through me. William's note explained, the letter was stored in his firm's legal archive per Grandma's strict instructions. She told him to release it only if I asked about the trust, a safeguard, to ensure I was ready to fight for what was mine. I read on her words, sharp with purpose. If anyone takes what's yours, don't let them win. You're stronger than you know, Suri. My throat tightened. She'd anticipated this betrayal, known David might falter. Her faith in me felt like a lifeline pulling me through the hurt. I remembered her voice, firm but warm, telling me stories of her early days in construction, fighting for respect in boardrooms, saving every penny for our family. She'd built that trust for me, and David had torn it apart. I opened the other files. William sent bank statements, trust agreements, and a series of emails from David to the bank. The first, dated 3 years ago, demanded $50,000 for Evan's college tuition, calling it family business. Another from last summer requested $30,000 for his Europe trip, labeled essential for his growth. The most recent was a gut punch, $150,000 for his BMW, marked urgent family need. Each email was a calculated move, stripping away my future. David hadn't just mismanaged the trust, he deliberately redirected it to my brother. My jaw clenched anger, mixing with resolve. This wasn't a mistake. It was theft, plain and simple. I started organizing evidence, printing every document, and spreading them across the table. I highlighted David's emails, cross-referencing them with bank statements and the trust agreement. The paper trail was undeniable. Every withdrawal violated Grandma's intent. Her letter was the cornerstone, a legal testament to her wishes. I lingered on her words, rereading a line about my strength. It wasn't just about the money. It was about honoring her fight, her belief that I could rise above. My hands shook as I stacked the papers, but not from fear, from determination. I knew I needed a lawyer to take this further. I opened my laptop and searched for trust dispute attorneys in Burlington. Names popped up, but one stood out, a lawyer with glowing reviews for winning cases like mine. I read through client testimonials, each one praising his thoroughness and tenacity. My banking experience told me I needed someone sharp, someone who could navigate the legal maze and hold David accountable. I drafted an email summarizing the trust's history and attaching a scanned copy of Grandma's letter along with key bank records. My message was clear. I wanted justice not just for me, but for Grandma's legacy. As I hit send, a weight lifted. This wasn't just about reclaiming $250,000. It was about standing up for myself, for the girl Grandma saw when no one else did. I pictured her smile, her unwavering belief in me, and my resolve hardened. David thought he could take what was mine and leave me with nothing. He was wrong. The next day I drove to downtown Burlington, my folder of evidence ready. The morning air was crisp, and my resolve felt sharper than ever. I parked outside a sleek office building where Andrew, the lawyer I'd contacted, had agreed to meet. His office was on the third floor, all glass and polished wood, with a view of Lake Champlain in the distance. I handed him the folder bank statements, trust agreements, David's emails, and Grandma's letter. Andrew, a wiry man with sharp eyes, flipped through the pages, his expression focused. "This is solid," he said, tapping the letter. "Your grandmother's intent is crystal clear. David's withdrawals violated the trust's terms." My shoulders relaxed slightly, a flicker of hope cutting through my nerves. Andrew outlined the next steps, filing a claim, requesting a forensic audit, and preparing for a potential court battle. "We have a strong case," he said, "but it won't be quick." I nodded, ready for the fight. As Andrew began drafting the initial paperwork, I felt a weight lift. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting, I was taking control. David had assumed I'd stay silent like always, but he underestimated me. Grandma's words echoed in my mind. "You're stronger than you know." I left Andrew's office with a plan, my determination burning brighter. This wasn't just about the $250,000. It was about proving I wasn't invisible. Back at my temporary apartment, I opened my laptop to check emails. Among the usual clutter was a message from a local boutique owner, Tessa Mitchell, who'd found me through my online design portfolio. She wanted a logo for her new clothing store in Burlington, a project that could showcase my skills. I'd been studying graphic design online for months, squeezing in assignments between bank shifts, chasing a dream I'd buried under family obligations. Tessa's email felt like a sign, a chance to build something for myself. I replied immediately, setting up a meeting for the next day. I spent the evening sketching logo concepts, my tablet glowing in the dim light. Tessa's boutique, from what I'd researched, was vibrant and eclectic, blending vintage and modern styles. I poured my energy into clean lines and bold colors. Losing myself in the work, it was the first time in weeks I felt free, unburdened by David's betrayal. By midnight, I had 3 drafts ready, each one a step toward the life I wanted. Grandma had always said, "Work hard, Suri, and make it yours." This project was mine. The next morning, I met Tessa at her boutique on Church Street. The shop was small but lively, with racks of colorful dresses and handwritten price tags. Tessa, a warm woman with a quick smile, greeted me like an old friend. I showed her my designs, explaining how the curved font and floral accents reflected her brand's energy. She leaned forward, eyes bright. "These are fantastic," she said, pointing to my favorite draft. "You've got real talent." Her words hit me hard, a validation I hadn't realized I needed. We finalized the concept, and she promised to send feedback by the weekend. Later that day, I submitted the logo drafts to my online design instructor for review. Her response came quickly, a rare email filled with praise. "Suri, this is professional grade work. You're ready for bigger projects." My heart swelled. For years, I'd put my dreams on hold, managing the family's finances, while David spent my future on my brother. Now, I was carving out a new path. Tessa's project wasn't just a job. It was a turning point, a sign I could be more than the daughter who paid their bills. As I drove home, I thought of Grandma's construction office where she'd taught me to stand tall. This logo project, this lawsuit, they were my way of honoring her. David thought he could erase my worth, but I was building something new, piece by piece. I wasn't just fighting for justice. I was fighting for the life I deserved. A week later, I buried myself in work, ignoring my buzzing phone. My temporary apartment was a mess of sketch pads and coffee cups. My tablet glowing with revisions for Tessa's logo project. I'd been up late refining the design, my online coursework deadlines looming. The phone buzzed again, insistent, and I glanced at the screen. David. My stomach tightened, but I let it go to voicemail. His message was sharp, his voice low and accusing. "Suri, you're tearing this family apart," he said. "Filing a lawsuit, making us look bad. Drop it now or you'll regret it." His words stung, but not because I felt guilty, because they confirmed he cared more about his reputation than what he'd stolen from me. I deleted the message, my hand steady. David wasn't going to bully me into silence. Minutes later, the phone rang again. This time it was Mom. Her voice was softer, pleading, but laced with manipulation. "Suri, come home," she said. "We can settle this as a family. You're blowing this out of proportion, being too sensitive." I clenched my jaw, her words echoing years of dismissal. She'd always brushed off my efforts, paying their bills, keeping their house running while praising my brother. Now she wanted me to sweep David's theft under the rug. I kept my response short. "No, Mom, this isn't my fault." I hung up my chest heavy but resolute. I wasn't the problem here. Justin stopped by that evening, his face tense as he pulled out his phone. "You need to see this," he said, showing me a social media post from Evan. My brother had written a long rant calling me selfish for attacking the family over money. "Suri's always been jealous," he wrote, "trying to ruin me because she can't handle my success." The post had photos of his BMW, his Europe trip, flaunting the life David's theft had bought him. My blood boiled. He'd taken my future and painted me as the villain. But as I scrolled, I saw the comments, dozens of them from locals and strangers alike. "Sounds like you're the selfish one," one read. "Who paid for that car?" another asked. The backlash was swift, people calling out his entitlement. I almost smiled. Evan's attempt to shame me had backfired. Justin sat beside me, his hand on my shoulder. "He's digging his own grave," he said. I nodded, grateful for his support. Evan's post wasn't just cruel. It was proof of his arrogance, the same arrogance David enabled. I thought of Grandma, her fierce belief in fairness. She'd taught me to stand up for myself, to fight for what was right. This lawsuit wasn't just about me. It was about honoring her legacy, the one David and Evan tried to erase. I opened my messaging app. Anger and resolve churned inside me. I typed a single line, "Ask my worthy brother." It was the same phrase David had thrown at me weeks ago when he dismissed my pain at that dinner table. Now it was my defiance, a refusal to back down. I hit send, my heart steady. Evan could post all he wanted. David could threaten. Mom could beg, but I wasn't budging. I turned back to my tablet, diving into the logo revisions. Tessa had sent feedback, loving the bold colors, but suggesting a sleeker font. I adjusted the design, losing myself in the details. My online instructor had emailed too, praising my progress and suggesting I pitch to bigger clients. Their encouragement fueled me. For years, I'd carried my family's weight, sacrificing my dreams to keep them afloat. Now I was building something new, my career, my life. David and Mom wanted me to stay small, to forgive and forget. Evan wanted me to feel guilty, but I was done playing their game. 3 weeks later, I sat in a Burlington courtroom, my heart steady. The room was quiet, save for the rustle of papers and the low hum of the overhead lights. Wooden benches gleamed under fluorescent glow, and the judge's elevated desk loomed at the front, a stern reminder of the stakes. I adjusted my blazer, chosen carefully to project confidence, and glanced at Andrew, my lawyer, who was organizing his notes with precision. Across the room, David sat stiffly, his suit ill-fitting, his jaw set. His eyes avoided mine, but I felt no urge to meet them. I'd spent years seeking his approval, only to learn he'd stolen my future. Today, I wasn't here for him. I was here for Grandma, for justice. Andrew stood, his voice clear and commanding as he addressed the judge. He presented the evidence with methodical care. David's emails to the bank demanding withdrawals from my brother's tuition, his Europe trip, his BMW, $50,000, $30,000, $150,000, all misdirected. He laid out bank statements, each transaction a betrayal of the trust's purpose. Grandma's letter was the centerpiece, her handwritten words projected on a screen. Suri, my dearest, this is for your life, your dreams. Andrew's tone sharpened as he argued David's violation of his fiduciary duty, emphasizing Grandma's explicit intent for the $250,000 to support my education or home. The judge, a gray-haired woman with a no-nonsense gaze, listened intently, her pen scratching notes. David's lawyer countered, claiming the withdrawals were family decisions, but his arguments faltered under Andrew's cross-examination. The emails, cold and transactional, undermined any defense of shared intent. I watched David shift uncomfortably, his composure cracking as Andrew quoted, "Grandma, if anyone takes what's yours, fight for it." My chest tightened, not with fear, but with pride. I'd fought just as she'd urged. The judge deliberated briefly, her expression unreadable. When she spoke, her voice was firm. Mr. Scott violated his duty as trustee. She declared, "The evidence is unequivocal." She ordered David to repay the full $250,000 plus $30,000 in penalties for mismanagement. A ripple of relief coursed through me, my breath catching. It wasn't just the money, it was validation proof that Grandma's faith in me wasn't misplaced. Andrew squeezed my arm, a rare smile, breaking his professional demeanor. "We did it, Suri," he whispered. I nodded my eyes, stinging. This was her victory as much as mine. As the courtroom cleared, I gathered my things, my steps lighter. Outside in the chilly hall, Mom approached, her face strewn with tears. "Suri, I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "We didn't mean to hurt you. Please, let's talk." Her words trembled heavy with regret, but they landed hollow. For years, she dismissed my sacrifices, paying their bills, carrying their burdens, while enabling David's choices. Her apology felt like too little, too late. I took a breath, steadying myself. "I needed you before, Mom," I said, my tone calm but firm. "Not now." Her shoulders slumped, but I turned away, my heart resolute. I wasn't the daughter who'd bend anymore. Justin waited by the exit, his presence a quiet anchor. He took my hand, his grip warm and steady. "You were incredible in there," he said, his eyes proud. I managed a small smile, leaning into his support. We walked out into the crisp Burlington air, the weight of the past lifting with each step. David's betrayal, Mom's excuses, my brother's absence, they no longer defined me. This win was for her, for the future she'd fought to give me. I thought of my design work waiting at home, Tessa's logo, my online courses, a career taking shape. The courtroom had closed one chapter, but another was opening. 2 months later, I stood in my new Burlington home, keys in hand. The small 2-bedroom cottage sat on a quiet street, its white clapboard exterior glowing under the autumn sun. Inside, hardwood floors stretched across an open living space where I'd already set up a corner desk for my graphic design studio. The walls, freshly painted in soft gray, held sketches from my portfolio, including Tessa's logo, now framed as a reminder of my first big break. With the $250,000 from the lawsuit, plus the $30,000 penalty, I'd secured this place a space that was mine, built on justice. Every creak of the floorboards felt like a victory, a promise kept to Grandma, whose trust fund had finally fulfilled her dream for me. I spent mornings in my studio sunlight streaming through wide windows as I worked on new design projects. Clients were trickling in thanks to Tessa's glowing referrals. My online design course was wrapping up, and my instructor had connected me with a local agency seeking freelancers. The work wasn't just a job, it was a lifeline proof I could stand on my own. I thought of Grandma often, her stories of building her construction business from nothing, her insistence that I carve my own path. This house, this studio, was my path built from her belief in me. The wedding came together quickly, a small gathering in a nearby park under golden maple trees. Justin and I had planned it ourselves, keeping it simple but meaningful. I wore a cream dress I'd found in Tessa's boutique, its delicate lace, a nod to her support. Tessa arrived with a wide smile, bringing a bottle of wine and a card signed by her staff. My friends from the bank and design course filled the small crowd, their laughter warming the crisp air. Justin stood beside me, his hand steady in mine, his vows quiet but fierce. Suri, you're my home. My heart swelled, not just for him, but for this new family we'd created, one that saw me for who I was. As we danced under string lights, I felt Grandma's presence, her voice whispering, "You did it, Suri." A week before, I'd heard news of my old family through a mutual acquaintance. David's scandal had spread through Burlington's tight-knit business community. His construction firm, already struggling, collapsed under the weight of the lawsuit's publicity. He'd lost his job, his reputation in tatters as clients and partners pulled away. I felt a pang of pity, but it faded quickly. He'd made his choices, siphoning off my future for my brother's luxuries. Justice had caught up. Evan's fall was sharper. The acquaintance mentioned he'd sunk his money into a fraudulent investment scheme, lured by promises of quick wealth. It wiped him out, forcing him to sell his prized BMW and leave Burlington in disgrace. I pictured him once, so smug in his social media rants, now humbled by his own recklessness. His absence at the wedding didn't surprise me. He'd never owned his mistakes. Mom, I learned, was living alone, her calls to me unanswered. The acquaintance described her as withdrawn, spending days in the house I'd once kept afloat. Her tearful apology outside the courtroom lingered in my mind, but it wasn't enough to erase years of dismissal. I'd carried their burdens too long, and now I was free. Standing in my new home, I traced my fingers over a photo of Grandma placed on the studio desk. Her eyes, fierce and kind, reminded me of the strength she'd seen in me. I'd fought for her legacy, not just the money, but the belief that I was enough. David, Evan, and Mom had tried to dim that truth, but I'd proven them wrong. The lawsuit wasn't just about reclaiming $250,000. It was about reclaiming my worth. As I locked the door and headed to meet Justin for dinner, I carried a quiet certainty. Justice had given me a foundation, but independence had built this life. Grandma's lesson rang clear. No matter the unfairness, I could rise above my home, my studio, my new family.